Good afternoon. I think we just switched from good morning to good afternoon. So first of all, I want to thank Kathy Kiley for giving me 2 hours to speak today. Wait, did I say 2? I mean 20 minutes to speak today that's about as funny as I get. So if you don't think that's funny, you're not going to think anything else is funny. But honestly, I get to talk about one of my favorite subjects in the world, and that is reigniting the art of creativity in media, something that is very near and dear to my heart. Before I tell you what this presentation is about, I want to start and tell you what this presentation isn't about. And what it isn't about is that we don't live in a data-driven world, because we do. If you just look at some of the logos up here, and it didn't change. There we go. Facebook and Google take 50 cents of every new digital dollar globally, 70 cents of every new digital dollar in the US. I mean, those are sobering numbers. And those top 4 brands, probably heard of them all, Facebook, Google, Amazon, and Apple, they have added a combined $2 trillion in market capitalization since the Great Depression in 2007 and 2009. And then there's a couple small companies, as I say sarcastically, Alibaba and Tencent, you might have heard of them. They have their sights set far beyond the Chinese borders. So again, when I get through, I just don't want anybody saying John doesn't believe in data-driven marketing, data-driven media, because I do. What this is an argument that the most undervalued, underinvested, and undertrained asset in the world of media is creativity and how to be creative. And you might be thinking, well, how is that possibly new news? Creativity has always been important in marketing. Creativity has always been important in media, and it has. What my belief is that it will be much more important tomorrow than it is today and yesterday. I'm going to show you 3 quick charts that I believe are kind of impervious data. So if there are any people wondering about the power of creativity, hopefully after I show you these 3 charts, you will be convinced. So first is this pesky little thing called ad blocking. We've all heard of it. About 3 years ago at Cannes, everybody was talking about it. Everybody thought the sky was falling. And then for whatever reason, it seems to have subsided. I've actually read articles that have said ad blocking isn't that big a deal anymore. I don't know. Those numbers seem to continue to be moving up. If you look at the numbers, they have doubled from 2014 to 2017. And if you really start to get into the numbers, they become scarier, because if I go inside this 2016 and you look at 26.3, if I look at 13 to 25-year-olds, that number skyrockets to 66%. Now, the other thing you might be wondering is, yeah, but John, those are more desktop numbers. And the reality is most people access the internet on their mobile phone. It's this device, obviously, that we all find incredibly indispensable. But if I break it out and look at those same numbers for mobile, it's about 7.2 million in 2014, about 29.7 in 2017. So that's a 4x increase. So this is something that we absolutely have to worry about in terms of consumers are rejecting our ads. And the reality, and you saw this, Google made an announcement that their new Chrome browser sometime in early 2018, the date is still very TBD, they won't block out all ads, but they will block out bad ads. So this is still a major problem. So that's number 1. Number 2, you've heard of this. Cord cutters and cord nevers. You can see that the trajectory is going the exact same way as ad blocking. I've actually taken this one out to 2018. The chart that I'm not showing is probably the scariest thing for the cable companies and the scariest thing for us as marketers, because it just means that we have less places to put people's ads, and that's cord shaving. In 2016, 12% of all people downgraded their cable package, while 6% of all people upgraded their cable package. ESPN, been a lot in the news. I've got many dear friends at ESPN. Ed Earhart is a friend of mine. Both of our kids went to Boston College. ESPN has been hemorrhaging 2 million customers a year since 2013. That's a big deal. And consumers are fleeing, especially under the age of 30, to OTT. And this actually sets up a panel that you're going to be seeing later on. The third chart, which I think might be the most important, and it's interesting, there's a lot of experts who have said this is a massive sea change. This is a macro sea change that we need to keep our eyes on. This whole idea how consumers are moving from an ad environment to a subscription environment. And I'm kind of talking loosely here. You have then and you have now, but you can see there's a lot more opportunities for consumers to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with ads anymore. I'm just going to go into two of these companies very quickly. I also have a lot of friends that work for Pandora. I told them last week that I was going to be talking about Pandora. Hopefully, it's actually not a good thing, a bad thing, just a reality thing. Pandora right now, only 5% of their subscribers, or only 5% of their total user base is subscription. You say, well, that doesn't seem like a lot. 95% are still listening to the ads that we try to stick in front of them. That's the truth. That 5% accounts for 20% of Pandora's revenue. So if you're Pandora, you figure out where you want to go, and they've already gone on record of saying, we're less about growing the user base right now, we're more about growing the subscription base, and they've actually bragged that that $9.99 a month is going to eradicate the $363 million in debt that they pay royalty fees, and those royalty fees aren't going away. Candy Crush. The mobile game makers realized a long time ago, if they take the ads out, not only do they provide a better consumer experience, since Candy Crush took all the ads out, their revenue has increased by 35%. So this is a major problem for us, whether it's ad blocking, cord cutters, cord nevers, cord shavers, or just this massive sea change. We have to take our head out of the sand and understand that we have big challenges as marketers. And if you don't believe me, maybe you believe somebody that's more famous than me, if that's possible. I say that obviously joking. A lot more wealthier than me is a guy named Andrew Essex. So I know my team is probably like, oh my God, John is really talking about this book again. Yes, I've been very fixated on this book. Great little book, takes you 2 days to read. It's called The End of Advertising by Andrew Essex. Andrew Essex started Drogify with David Droga, kind of a famous agency. They've done some pretty good work. Basically, I've seen him speak on this. He said the book should have been named The End of Bad Advertising, but as he said, that just wasn't pithy as the end of advertising. So if you don't want to read the book, I'm going to pull out kind of what I think are kind of the 4 crown jewels out of the book, at least what the takeaways from me were. So the first is new paths, create new paths versus befouling old ones. He's got great nomenclature. I love his nomenclature. We always say this internally in our walls. Media is everywhere, and we're only limited by our own imagination. I get much more excited when the team comes to me and they say, hey, we've got some media that is not inside the boxes of predetermined units. We've created this from scratch. So I think this is a little bit around what Andrew has talked about. Interruption is no longer the default paradigm. I mean, let's face it, and he says this in his book, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, consumers kind of got it. He calls it a command and control world. We could command you, we could control you, and then we could command you. That's not necessarily the case anymore. You have to have one acronym in every single presentation, at least every presentation I do. If you read this literally, it says no gas. It obviously doesn't mean no gas. Basically what he's saying here is this is for every brand, and I think we saw this a little bit with Fearless Girl, by the way, props, just an amazing campaign that I have tremendous respect for. This is basically saying the consumer, no one gives a shit. I mean, no one really gives a shit about your 30-second spot. So the reality is we just have to understand that 99% of the consumers that see our advertising really don't give a shit. And this is my absolute favorite one. And I mean, I don't have any tattoos on my body, but if I did a tattoo, this would probably be the one that I would do. Be the thing, not the thing that sells the thing. I absolutely love that. Now, what Andrew will say is every single media impression, every single thing should be the thing. I'm not there yet because we see a lot of media mix modeling that shows us that a lot of the advertising that we put in front of consumers is working. But will that be the case 5 years from now? So at least for us and the media company that I work at and I run, I know we're always looking for something that is the thing versus just simply the thing that sells the thing. So that seems like a lot of doom and gloom, and maybe you're wondering why the hell Kathy had me even come up, because obviously I'm painting this terrible picture. It actually is wonderful news. It's the best possible news. This is all wonderful news for creativity in media, because it just means that creativity becomes so much more important. So before I show you some examples of what we're doing as a media organization, I just want to tell you how we've thought about this, how we've thought about building a very modern media company. And what we've done is we've actually created a creative group inside a media agency. I'm not sure that's 100% novel. I think a couple of the other media companies that we compete with have done it. But we've done it for a couple different reasons. Number one, we believe that this is tremendously important for all the statistics that I just put in front of you. Number two, because I honestly believe that 99% of most media people are much more about the left brain than they are the right brain. And we've got to find the right brain people and have them unencumbered from working on day-to-day business, have them unencumbered from putting flowcharts together. This team never thinks about a reach and frequency. This team doesn't even know what 3+ means. They don't know what a frequency, they know what a frequency cap means. They don't need to think about that. And number three is, as much as I respect creative directors and copywriters, classically trained copywriters and art directors, they do something very different. They're about creating a 30-second spot in the Super Bowl. They're about creating a 2-minute video on YouTube that's going to make us all cry. What they're not really trained for, not really good at, is co-creating content with media partners. Co-creating media content with avant-garde media partners. The Nylons, the YouTubes, the Uncrates, the Refinery 29s, the Goops, companies like that. That's what this group does, and we believe, at least at Media Hub, that we are absolutely in the in the content business and absolutely in the creativity business. And then I'm going to embarrass one of my colleagues. She's very easily embarrassed, and I know she's in the crowd somewhere. We were really excited because last year, Adweek named Laurel Boyd. Laurel Boyd runs our R&D group, which is called our Radical and Disruptive Group. It's a small group. It's growing. We've got them based. We've got the majority of the team in Boston, but we've started to build this out in the LA office. She was named one of the top 100 creative people at Adweek. It's a big deal. A media person named one of the top creative people in the US. And what I hope is next year there'll be 3 media people, the next year there'll be 8 media people, the following year after that's going to be 12 media people. So I think that was a really big deal, and I know I'm proud of Laurel, and I know we're all proud of Laurel. So let me give you 3 examples that I think show you how we created the thing versus the thing that sells the thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up with a quote or something that we heard from our client, give a very little preamble because the video really does a great job of telling the story. So we are fortunate enough to be the media AOR of Netflix. We represent Netflix in the US, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. We're their lead media AOR, and something we hear from them all the time is shoot for the moon. I mean, what could be more inspirational from a client than something this simple? Just shoot for the moon. And that's what we try to do every single time. We don't always hit this bar, but that is absolutely the ambition, and that is absolutely the goal and the bar that they give us. So the first one I'm going to show you is Black Mirror. We were very proud of this effort. We're, I guess, on the theme of Cannes. This is the first year that Media Hub has entered Cannes. The Media Cannes, this won a Silver Lion. That's a big deal. We were really proud of that. Netflix was very excited about this winning a Silver Media Clan for best use of integrated media. And what this is basically about, a lot of you have probably watched Black Mirror. We talk about it as a modern-day Twilight Zone. It's a dystopian society where they're kind of showing the good and evil of technology, usually more the evil of technology. And the target that we were trying to reach with the show was a young male audience that is very technologically advanced. So technology was really the key that set this up. And this is what we submitted to Cannes.
How do you reach the unreachable? You don't reach. You set a trap. Put some bait in there. Let them come to you. The most unsettling show on Netflix was heading into season 3. It's sort of a modern Twilight Zone that warns us of our societal dependency on technology. Spoiler alert, it never ends well. The show had a loyal following, but needed more, and their kind of viewer was the kind that hated advertising. They were highly educated, fairly wealthy, and they all had ad blockers, every single one of them. They were the Great Wall of leave us the fuck alone. So we created a digital media hack, worked with their most revered destinations, bypassed ad blocking software by hard-coding messages directly into these sites, and sidestepped the ad blockers upon page load. Basically, we targeted the untargetable, and this ass-backwards strategy worked. It proved that everyone is susceptible to the dark side of technology, and the people who hated advertising the most talked about it the most. We were spreading the right way. We were being passed along like a secret to the ad-hating publications of the world, and they were passing us on to more ad haters. Our audience grew. This was about earned impressions. Translation, dirt cheap. Something every client, even multi-billion-dollar companies, appreciate. In the end, we hacked the unhackable. They could block anything they wanted, but they couldn't block their own curiosity.
As you can imagine, I think I've seen that video probably 8,000 million times, and for some reason I still never get sick of it, but that's just me. The second video I'm going to show you is Narcos. Wonderful show. My wife and I just binged season 3. I don't know, maybe we finished about a month ago. This was to introduce season 2. We always laugh. We don't want to give anything away, but it's kind of a nonfiction story. So if you don't know the story of Pablo Escobar, shame on you. Season 1 is basically his rise to power. Season 2 is kind of his downfall. So season 2 was all about him being on the run. And that was really the brief. That's simple. How do we think about media in terms of on the run?
Netflix tasked us with promoting the second season of Narcos. We knew our marketing had to live up to the show's level of intrigue. Season 1 viewership revealed that our core target loved and obsessed over the specific details of Pablo Escobar's life. To rekindle the love and ignite excitement for Season 2, we went on the run with Pablo, telling the stories of his escape in our target's favorite places, with each story uniquely crafted for its environment.
Pablo Escobar has escaped.
On the anniversary of Escobar's escape from prison, we jump-started the show's return by unearthing archival news footage and placing it on CNN's homepage, along with our trailer. We followed up with custom TV spots during the national conventions, which featured real footage from politicians, and worked to resurface the conversation around Escobar and America's war on drugs. On Wired, we told the story of how Escobar was captured using Cold War surveillance technology, including an interactive experience of the radio triangulation method. On GQ, we highlighted his escape wardrobe, which serendipitously aligns with current fashion trends, and even recreated his favorite sweater as a gift to influencers who attended our Facebook Live Q&A with the cast. On Wall Street Journal, we set the stage for Season 3 with a deep dive into how the Colombian cartels moved and hid their billions of dollars in cash. Finally, we brought details to life through unique and contextual out-of-home. TSA bins reminded would-be DEA agents leaving key markets to only bring the essentials. Bus shelters were filled with $2 million in scorched cash, the same amount Escobar burned to keep his family warm. And when a vandal broke in, thinking it was real money, we turned it into an opportunity, responding with a message from Escobar. As the campaign ended, conversation and engagement was proof of our success. Time spent with our content exceeded 4 minutes. Over 260 million social impressions were generated, and the show took top spot as the most popular digital series in the U.S.
Again, another labor of love. This won Best of Show at the Media Post Ohm Awards a couple weeks ago in New York. It also was one of our 2 winners at the Adweek Media Plans of the Year. And if I can brag just for a second, because I like to brag about the media organization I have the honor of working for. We were one of 3 agencies, media agencies, to win 2 or more Media Week awards. PhD, Media Hub were the only 3 media agencies to win 2 or more awards. So the very last example, one of my favorites, kind of a sleeper. So Lee Applebaum is the CMO of Patron. Honestly, not to patronize him, I think just one of the smartest guys out there. He's always a step ahead of me, and with no humility at all. It's kind of hard to be a step ahead of me. Anybody who has worked with me or for me or in any capacity. But basically, the premium tequila market is interesting. It's soaring. Everybody's hot right now, but the reality is it's incredibly competitive. You've got Patron, you've got Don Julio, you have Casamigos, you have 1800. So there's a lot of very strong brands in the space. And just in a conversation, Lee was saying we have to show consumers that we kind of get them, whether it's a wink and a nod, whether it's overt, whether it's subliminal. That's what we're trying to do. So we built a cultural calendar. And what we wanted to do in a 12-month period is kind of draft off of kind of seminal moments. But it was interesting because the majority of these happen locally, not nationally, because there's always things that kind of just tie local communities or certain cities together. We've done 18 of these to date. I think this campaign has so much potential. I think we're just scratching at the surface. I think this thing can live in perpetuity. So with that, I think you'll get what I'm talking about. so simple. We just templatize the television spots. I think the way I look at this is almost kind of like real-time TV. Real-time digital, a lot of great examples, probably Dunk in the Dark from Oreo, the game where the lights went out in the Super Bowl. This is kind of taking that idea to television, which is very difficult. So I see I'm 2 minutes over. This, I believe, is my very last slide. But I just want to say one other thing beyond this. So I was at a conference in New Orleans. I did the same spiel at the iMedia Summit last week in New Orleans. They gave me 35 minutes. Kathy only gave me 20 minutes, so you saw the abridged version. Trust me, the 35-minute version is much better. But it was interesting. They had a bunch of CMOs on stage and some pretty prominent CMOs. And they were talking about what they want from their agencies, what they want from their marketing and media organizations. And I thought it was really interesting because they were talking about creativity across the enterprise, creativity across the experience. And what they were encouraging their agencies to do is not just think about creativity in their swim lane, but think about creativity everywhere. We were in a new business pitch last week, still waiting to hear. We delivered as many ideas on rethinking their retail space as we did creativity in media, because that's what I truly believe that CMOs and CEOs want. So thank you for giving me this 20 minutes.